Hello, guys, this is BenImparts here, back at you with episode 29 of this podcast series. And why is it late, you might ask? Well, it's been one of those days, and I normally beat myself up if I'm late for anything. Normally, this should have been up an hour and 14 minutes ago, but my god, today has been a bit difficult. So, with that, I won't bore you with an intro, I'll get straight into it. And today we're going to talk about the Nguma-Monene, a cryptid from the Congo's Mataba River. Its name in the local Lingala language literally means large boa. So, what is the Nguma-Monene? Well, it's described as a huge serpentine animal which actually has legs. In other words, it's like a snake, but it's also not a snake. It's said to be serpentine, about 30 to 40 inches in length and 2 to 3 inches in diameter. It's meant to have short legs, greyish brown skin, and a snake-like head and neck, as well as, very snake-like, a forked tongue to top it on and off, which flicks in and out. And it also has, even more interestingly, a serrated ridge running along its spine. And one sighting even suggests it is low-slung, which makes it a bit like a crocodile and a lizard also, if you can believe that. There are also different regional variants of it, and we'll get into those soon. So, the Nguma-Monene, what could it be? What could it actually be as a creature? Roy McCall, a noted cryptozoologist, says that the eyewitnesses know that there's no possibility whatsoever in the area that this is a crocodile. There's meant to be a giant crocodile in the area, the Mahamba, which is 100 feet long, but this is no crocodile. The Nguma-Monene has a forked tongue and a serrated back, which means it either has to be a snake or a lizard. And since no snakes have anything like a ridged back or crest, the key is in the word snake, it says along the ground, it's fair to assume it's going to be a lizard. But it's got to be a very large lizard because the biggest known species of monitors have no ridges, and the Nile monitor is a bit like the Nguma-Monene, but it is much too tiny. It's commonly thought to be an undescribed species of very large, elongated, ridgeback monitor lizard. But what of the sightings? There are only a handful, but they are quite convincing. In 1961, the elder sister of the first Secretary of the General Assembly of the Congo, Michel Zabotu, was bathing in the river. And suddenly, which is every woman's horror story, she felt a large disturbance in the water nearby. And to her absolute horror, a giant head and neck like a snake suddenly came out of the water 15 metres away from her, and she ran away, and then the villagers all gathered around in horror to watch the animal moving around in the water, driving past them in the current, flicking its tongue around with a sss. So, she was thrilled. And it gets even better though. In November 1971, while he was paddling down the Mataba River in a dug-out canoe, the missionary Joseph Ellis observed a 30-inch serpentine animal swimming across the river. It had a serrated back, and it soon disappeared into the grass and the undergrowth. But crucially, it never raised its body off the ground, so once again proving that it moves at a low angle. But it gets also even better because in Cameroon, they talk about the Yoli, which is very much like the Nguma-Monene, resembles a snake, but it actually has limbs large enough to rise above the tallest trees in the forest, so it's like some kind of Nguma-Mon longlegs. I really didn't think that one out. It moves very quickly through water, swamps, and on the ground, obviously, and it eats birds and monkeys. That is actually its diet. It feasts on birds and monkeys. And strangely enough, it's described as producing an electric current, which is a bit like an electric catfish produces, which makes it even more fascinating. The Baka people are very afraid of the Yoli. They're very afraid indeed, but it is said that they've sometimes killed specimens with dogs and spears when they can. So, what could the Nguma-Monene be? To me, it's quite clear that it's some kind of large lizard, but could it be some kind of cross between the lizard world and the snake world? And oh my god, I know some biologists on my case are going to be in the comment section like, oh, duh, this is impossible. It could be very possible that this is one of those crosses, because we don't know everything that's gone on in nature. We've only mapped out 10% of the sea, for God's sake. So for people who to claim, oh, it couldn't be a cross between a lizard and a snake, that's absolutely impossible. Well, it moves like a lizard, and it's got legs, but it hisses like a snake. Another thing is, it's an evolution of a snake. It's a snake that's evolved over time. It's adapted to move through water with maximum efficiency, because it can't exactly slither along the bottom of the river basin or it would drown. So it uses its legs to lift itself up enough, just enough to move along, and its fin helps guide it, helps to catch the sun, helps to keep it warm and keep it nourished. It's very similar, interestingly enough, to the Mbielu, the animal with planks growing out of its back, which resembles a stegosaurus and has crucially been seen moving through water. Again, with a ridge on its back. So some people think these people could be seeing the same creature, but mistaking them for separate things. It's also, if you can get that, very similar to the Badigui or the Nakula Nugu, which is Banda for water devil, which is a long-necked cryptid that's reported from the Bunchuchu and Gonda rivers in the Central African Republic, and also from Equatorial Guinea. The Badigui is smooth and hairless. It's described as a gigantic snake. It's about 3 inches wide. It has a snake-like head, and very long nape. It has a neck like a giraffe. It's thick like a man's thigh. It's sometimes been described as having a sail on its back. And this creature has actually been described as dangerous enough to kill hippopotamuses. And it gets even better because the Lingongole is a cryptid reported from the Zambezi Basin wetlands of Zambia. And it's a long-necked cryptid that's often looks compared to the Mukili Mbembe, but described like a snake. So the Nguma-Monene is linked to all these cryptids, and Roy McCall even believes it's linked to Sudan's Lao, a cryptid reported from the marshes of the White Nile. It's now South Sudan, obviously, which is described as a huge serpent-like creature which has protuberances on its face, and which in turn is similar to the Lukwata of Lake Victoria in Zambia. This is incredibly fascinating stuff because this cryptid seems to tie in with all kinds of different cryptids, and people are possibly seeing one cryptid and in low light or in water mistaking it for another. But what do you guys think? Have any of you ever seen this? Do you know anyone who has? Have you got any sightings yourselves? Please post that in the comments below. Suggest me something for episode 30. I look at all your suggestions and I do as many as you can. Thanks very much.